As I continue with my Trust Premium research, I added more disciplines, different professions. And in this case, in the last few weeks, I added lawyers and accountants, and more specifically, as they are being considered to be used by a small business owner, someone with a company that has 10 employees or less, even somebody that works all by themselves. So first I did that, but I also extended the Trust Premium model. And in this episode, I will share the extended Trust Premium model, as well as specifically the findings that I found for lawyers and accountants, the Trust Premium for lawyers and accountants. And I'll do that right after this. Welcome to The Trust Show. I'm Yoram Solomon, your host, the author of the Book of Trust and facilitator of the Trust Habits Workshop. My mission is simple. I want to help you form habits that build your trustworthiness, because the answer to this question will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you? First, let me talk about the Trust Premium model. So the Trust Premium model had three important points, reference points. The first one is called trust preference. And the definition that I created for trust preference is, with everything else being equal, including the price, what is the probability that the customer will choose the trustworthy provider over one that they don't know? So in other words, everything is the same, but they trust one, they don't trust another one. What is the probability they're going to choose the trustworthy one? And it's not necessarily 100%. You'll see that it's close to 100%, but it's not exactly. That's trust preference. Then trust premium. And, you're going to see that I added another trust premium, but you'll see. So trust premium, with everything else being equal except the price, how much more is the customer willing to pay the trustworthy provider before they switch to the one that they don't know? Okay, so at a 50-50 probability, what is the premium that a trustworthy provider, salesperson, professional, anything, is that the customer is willing to pay them? And then the opposite of that is what I call the distrust discount. With everything else being equal, excluding the price, how much will a provider have to discount their price before the customer switches to them from a provider they trust? Now, to be very clear, I'm not talking about someone that they have a reason to actively distrust. Because when we have a reason to actively distrust someone, we know we should not trust them, that discount could be 100%. I mean, there's absolutely, don't even give it to maybe more than 100%. I'm not even going to take it from you for free if I know that I can't trust you. No, it's from someone, if they don't know you at all, but they're currently working or considering someone that they consider to be trustworthy, how much do you have to discount before they're willing to switch to you? If they don't know you, again, no active reason to distrust you. And I make it very clear in my surveys that the comparisons are always between someone that is trustworthy to someone they don't know. They don't have a reason to distrust, but they just don't know. So these are the three definitions that I have or had until now in the Trust Premium framework. I added a couple more points to think about. So first of all, what I found is that trust preference was never 100%. So everything else being equal, including the price, the trustworthy one was still not at 100%. Pretty close to 100%, but not at 100%. So now the question is, at what discount will the trustworthy provider actually get 100% probability? So not only that you're a trustworthy one compared to somebody they don't know, but you also provide a discount. And at what point will you get 100% of the business? So, first of all, why does it happen? Why is it not 100%? So everything else being equal, why is the trustworthy one not getting 100% of the business? Well, it happens first because trust is not everything. There is value. There are other things. Some people don't know, or it's not enough for them. The description that I gave for this one is trustworthy. And even though I said everything else being equal, it's still not enough information for them. Some people are still not willing to make that distinction. Now, something that I need to add is when I screen the surveys, I don't necessarily take 100% of the responses. Here are two responses that I eliminate. When I describe that everything else is being equal and one of them is trustworthy, the other one is not, and someone says, I'm going to choose the other one, the one that I don't know, over the one that I trust, even though I said everything else is being equal, I eliminate those responses. Because, you tell me in what world, if everything else about the product or service are the same, one of them is trusted, the other one you don't know, you're going to buy from the one you don't know. So to me, what that means is this is not a trustworthy response to the survey. By the way, the same applies to when they say we're not going to choose any of them. I'm not choosing any of them. And that's a valid answer. I'm not going to choose any of them because it means that I need more information, but it also means that I can't deduct a trustworthiness or a trust premium from this response. So, but even with that, we still don't get 100%. There's still a few people that say, I don't know. I don't know which one. They're not saying I'm not going to have any of them. They just say, I don't know which one. If these are the two options, one of them is trustworthy, the other one, I don't know. And everything else being the same, and I still don't know who to choose. That's a valid answer to say I don't know who to choose, but it means that the trust preference is not 100%. So is there a premium or a discount that you can give in this case, so a minus premium, where you're going to get 100%? First of all, obviously, it's a much smaller discount than the distrust discount that I described before, which is what happens when they don't know you and they compare you to somebody they trust at the same price. So can you lower the price? The lowering of price here is going to be much more significant. Here, in our case, if you're the trustworthy one and they're still not sure and everything else is being equal, is there a discount you can give them? I don't know that they will ever trust. They may just say it's not a matter of price. It's not a matter of trustworthiness. It's other things. I need to touch it. I need to see it. I need to feel it with my own two hands. So I did not focus on what would be the trust preference or when do we get at what price, premium minus premium or discount, at what point will we get to 100%? Because I don't know that we'll get to 100%. I don't know that there's a value, especially since I think the lowest one was still over 90%, the lowest trust preference. So whenever I describe, whether it was financial advisors, contractors, independent insurance agents, lawyers, accountants, when everything else was equal, one of them was trustworthy, the other one the customer didn't know, the preference to the trustworthy one was always over 90%. So, you know what? I'm fine with that. Now, here's another interesting point that I do want to touch on, and I do want to start tracking in my research. And that is, I haven't decided how to call it, whether I should call it the marginal trust premium or the maximum trust premium or trust premium max or whatever. When I talk about the trust premium point, the probability is 50%. Remember the definition of trust premium, or my definition of trust premium. With everything else being equal, excluding the price, how much more is the customer willing to pay the trustworthy provider before they switch to the one they don't know? So we're talking about 50-50%. At what point do we get to 50-50%? If the price goes a little higher, then the probability goes below 50% and they switch to the other one. There is a probability they're going to switch to the other one. But it's a probability. Doesn't mean that they will. It means that you still get 50% of the business at the high trust premium. Can you still increase the trust premium? Of course you can. It's just that the line keeps going down. It's now below 50%. So I was interested in finding where will this line actually hit zero probability. But you know what? I found that I actually have. I mean, would it be double? Is it a straight line? So if the trust premium is 40% at 50% probability, will it be 80% at 100%, at 0% probability? So at that point, if I go from 40% to 80% premium, that's the point where I'm not going to make a sale. But I actually don't think that there is a point. I think that we're getting to an asymptote, a point where it's going to keep on going. The probability will keep on going down and down and down, but it might actually never hit zero, absolute zero. How do I know that? Because, for example, for financial advisors, for accountants, for contractors, for lawyers, I actually did ask, at what point do we get, or what is the probability that you're going to hire them if the price that they asked was 100% more, so double the price? The numbers were not zero. For lawyers, it was 20.8%. For accountants, it was 25.5%. Financial advisors was 28%. I don't remember for contractors, but I'm pretty sure it was over 20%. How did I calculate those? So those were the points where I said at 100% premium, will you choose them? Or you still don't know between A and B. And if you don't know between A and B, I would give you half of how many chose the A and B. So those are these numbers. But you know what? Even the net numbers. So those who specifically said, I will still choose the trustworthy one, it was 12.5%, 16.3%, 14.4%. So it's still not zero, even at 100% premium. When I did insurance agents, I knew that I should expect a lower premium. And because of that, the highest number was actually 20% premium. I still had, for insurance agents, I had 13% still said, even at 20% premium, 13% of respondents said, I will still choose the trustworthy insurance agent. So we're really never going to get to 0%, and there is still an interesting number, and I think that I will start reporting that number. So it's not necessarily the marginal maximum. I think I will just call it the maximum trust premium and specify that for lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, that's 100%. That's double the price. For insurance agents, it's, for example, 20% higher price, and so on. But it's another interesting point to report when I report the trust premium in an industry. I want to add one more important comment, and that is, last week in episode 3 of season 14, I talked about finding and maximizing your trust premium. But the first part is finding it. And if you remember, and if you don't, just go and listen to last week's episode, season 14, episode 3. You may want to segment your market. So when you find that the average trust premium is, let's say, for financial advisors, it's 39.4%. So people are, on average, when the financial advisor raises their fees by 39.4%, that is the point where the customer will consider switching to the other one. to the one they don't know, the financial advisor they don't know. It's just too much of premium. But there is a point, or there is a segment of customers who's willing to pay more. And so when we do the first phase of Trust Premium, or the Trust Premium assessment for your market, we may want to segment and see what segment of people are willing to pay higher. Maybe that's who you should focus on. Maybe you don't need 100% of the market. Maybe all you need is 10% of the market. Why don't we find the 10%, the demographics of the 10% that are willing to pay a higher Trust Premium? That their Trust Premium max, or their marginal Trust Premium, is the highest, more than the average. Something to think about. Another thing that I started doing is to make sure, and I had that for financial advisors and insurance agents. Part of it I had only for financial advisors, but I did that for lawyers and for accountants. And that is the transferable trust. And I look at transferable trusts both as inbound and outbound. What do I mean by inbound? By inbound, I mean how much does it affect your level of trust that you have? How much does it affect does the inbound transferable trust, what you get about them, how big of an impact, or how will it affect your decision to use A versus B? I'll give you an example of what the question sounds like. So the question sounds like this. Even if you currently use a whatever provider, accountant, lawyer, please imagine that you don't, and that you are considering using a new accountant, lawyer, financial advisor, whatever. You have two candidates, A and B. How will any of the following affect your decision to use A versus B? Here are 4 of the questions, and for each one of them, I asked, would it have no effect at all? Would it slightly make you choose one, make you choose one considerably, or definitely? So, A has many positive online reviews, while B doesn't have many reviews, positive or negative. So that's the review/rating R. Remember that there are 4 R's. A is working for a firm that I trust more than the company B works for, more than the company B works for a firm that I don't know. So that's the second one. That's the reputation, and it's the reputation of the company, not so much the provider. A was recommended to me by someone I know and trust, while B was not, even though nobody said anything bad about them. So that's the referral R. And finally, A offered me references of current or previous customers that provided me with good reviews, while B didn't offer any references. So again, it's not that B is negative, that there is an active reason not to trust B, but there are active reasons to trust A. And this last one is the reference R. So the 4 R's. So how does it affect your decision to choose A and B? The transferable, the inbound transferable trust. So I track that, and you'll see some of the findings today, or you'll hear it. Then there are the outbound R's, which I did for all except for insurance agents. And that is your willingness to provide transferable trust for the next customer. Because remember, post-selling this or purchasing decision, it's if they trust you, they would be willing to provide transferable trust to your next customer. So the way I worded this question is something like, imagine that you decide to hire provider A and worked with them for more than a year, and they kept every promise they made to you. How likely are you to recommend them to people who trust you? That's the recommendation R. Post a positive review about them online. That's the review or rating R. Be willing to be a reference for them. That's the reference R. So these are 3 R's. The 4th R, the company reputation, is not affected by you working with them for a year. Or at least I don't consider it. So I did that for all the different disciplines. And then the next question I had was, is there a correlation between outbound and inbound? And I didn't find any correlation. What I found, oddly enough, I thought really that referrals from somebody you know and trust are going to rank the highest, but it's actually references. So when you provide a reference of your services by a previous customer, that actually ranks the highest among all four, across all four. But other than that, the outbound, so this is on the inbound, so it has the biggest impact on you. But outbound, they're all three of them are very similar. So then I actually looked at accountants and lawyers in the last several weeks, and I compared the trust premium, trust preference, outbound transferable trust, and inbound transferable trust. I found them to be very similar. Now, something to keep in mind is it was never the same person who answered on both a lawyer and an accountant. I separated that, different people, to see if I can feel a difference between different populations. The results were very, very consistent, very similar. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the samples were pretty small. So a total of 49 lawyers, that was net, 51 accountants, net again. The margin of error at these levels were 14% for each. But since I saw that the results were very similar, I actually combined lawyers and accountants. At that point, I had 100 and 10% margin of error. Let's start. Lawyers. Trust preference, 90.6%. So everything else being equal, including the price, if they trust one over the other one, they are 90.6% more likely to choose that one. Trust premium, the equilibrium point, the average point, 32.7%. So a lawyer or well, in this case, we're talking lawyers only. Lawyers can raise their prices or their fees 32.7% over someone that the customer doesn't know, and that would be the point where the customer will consider both of them equally, 50-50. Premium max, 21% of the respondents were willing to still choose the one they trust when the premium was 100% higher. 100% higher. Transferable trust inbound, they all ranked between a little more and more. So whether it's the reputation of the company, whether it's providing references that checked out, reviews and ratings, and personal recommendation by somebody that you trust, how likely is it to affect your decision to choose one over the other? Between a little more and more. It was actually closer to more. That's where they all were. By the way, it was interesting because it was lower than for financial advisors. So on financial advisors, the transferable trust was more important to affect trust and affect that decision. Interesting. Don't know why, but it was. For both lawyers and accountants, but I'll get to that. Transferable trust outbound, how likely are you to be willing to provide, whether it's review rating or reference or recommendation? They were all between likely and very likely. With the willingness to provide review or rating was actually the lowest. That willingness was the lowest. So it's less than our willingness to provide personal reference or to recommend them to someone who trusts us. Accountants, trust preference, 92.9% compared to 90.6% for lawyers. So I told you it's very similar. Trust premium, the equilibrium point, the average point, 34.6% compared to 32.7%. So not even 2% point. Remember, the margin of error is 14%. So as an accountant, you can raise your price your fees, 34.6%, before the customer says, I'm going to consider the other one, the one that I don't know. The Premium Extreme, 26% at 100% premium. Transferable Trust Inbound, again, they all ranked between a little more and more. So a little more probability of choosing A over B based on transferable trust. Again, it was closer to more than to a little more. And again, the same comment, financial advisors were actually higher, more and much more, which again tells us that this is context dependent because trust is contextual. That's the second law of trust. So different industries, even different sub-industries. Transferable trust outbound, again, they were all between likely and very likely, with, again, review and the willingness to provide review or rating online is the lowest across all of them. This is it. Pretty short episode. Let me just summarize what I told you. First of all, I continue to do the Trust Premium research. I continue to find very interesting things. The previous episode might be something you want to listen to. So that's season 14, episode 3, because it talked about the process of finding and maximizing your Trust Premium. I made that comment many times. Trust is contextual. Trust Premium is contextual. Different industries are different, even within the industry. I did find another point to consider, and that is the Trust Premium Max or the marginal Trust Premium. The premium where they're willing to pay even more than the Trust Premium, even more than the 50%. And again, it's 50-50 likelihood of they're choosing you being trustworthy over someone they don't know at this trust premium that you're charging. But there is a segment there that's willing to pay even more. And that's why it's so important to find that segment. I'm not sure that we should consider a trust premium minimum, which would be a negative premium or a discount. And I'm not sure that price will ever make a difference. I mean, especially when you're over 90% probability or trust preference that somebody is going to choose you with everything being the same, being equal, same as including price. There's over 90% that are going to choose you. I'm not sure that the rest can be compensated for with a discount. As far as specifically lawyers and accountants, which was the last segment that I did a couple of weeks ago, they're relatively similar. The perspective was small business hiring an accountant or a lawyer. The preferences were between 91 and 93%. The premiums were between 33 and 35% for both of them. And 21 to 26% were willing to pay 100% higher fees. The net was actually 12.5% to 16.3%. Higher fees, 100% higher fees. 12.5 to 16.3% were willing to pay 100% higher fees, which again is why segmentation of the market is so important. So instead of trying to go after all this market, go after a smaller segment. I will continue this research. I will update you in this podcast with what I find. You probably are aware, and if not, be aware now that I am writing book number 20. Book number 20 is called The Trust Premium, and all of this is going to be there. And as I find more information, I will probably have different editions, newer editions of the book with additional information. That's it for today. I hope that it made you think a little differently about trust and specifically Trust Premium. May trust be with you. This was The Trust Show. What would you like to know about trust and trustworthiness? Let me know and I'll answer it in a future episode. I would love to hear from you. Email me at yoram@thetrustshow.com. If you like this episode, subscribe to the show so you will automatically get notified when I release a new episode. Rate it. Write a review for this podcast because those ratings help not only you, but also others looking for podcasts just like this. If you're looking for more resources to learn about how to build trust, be trusted, or know who to trust, look up my workshops, online courses, books, or go to my website, trusthabits.com. And remember that the answer to these two questions will have the biggest impact on your personal and professional success or failure. Can I trust you, and can you trust me? Thank you for listening or watching The Trust Show.